One, as Hannah said, this may be a familiar passage to you, so I encourage you to just light that for your memory and listen as if you've never heard it. 1 Corinthians 13, starting with verse 1. If I speak in the tongues of men or of angels, but do not have love, I'm only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have faith that can move mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and give over my body to hardship that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. It does not dishonor others, it is not self seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. But where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part, we prophesy in part. But when completeness comes, what is in part disappears. When I was a child, I talked like a child, and I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I put the ways of childhood behind me. For now we see only a reflection as in a mirror. Then we shall see face to face. Now I know in part. Then I shall know fully, even as I am fully known. And now these three remain: faith, hope, and love. And the greatest of these is love.
Gracious Lord and loving Heavenly Father, we've sung this morning about seeing your face, it being for your glory and our good. Father, we believe that, but we're also so inclined to chase after other things for our good. Father, would you please use our time this morning so that we are transformed, so that we long to see you, be known by you, throughout Christ's name. Amen. We are finishing off our campaign this week in Practical Grace, and we're back to where we started in 1 Corinthians 13. We've been trying to bank one run through this campaign. It's one thing that we find again and again and again in the scriptures that we must hear if we're going to make progress in the Christian life, following after Jesus, and it is this: a spiritually changed heart is different to a morally constrained heart. In fact, if you want to be transformed by Jesus, if you observe yourself problematic patterns or ruts that you slide into, that you wish were different. You know, you find yourself in this situation again and again and again, and you just reach for that thing for self-soothing, or you reach for that nasty job when you find yourself in that situation again. Um, you just end up there again and again and again, and you wish things were different, and you've tried to change, and it hasn't worked. You just maybe you are just this kind of person, or maybe on the one hand, sin isn't that serious, or on the other hand, God isn't powerful to change. If you find yourself in that situation, then you must know that a spiritually changed heart leaves a morally constrained heart in the dust. You're a spiritually changed heart if you are ever making progress following Jesus. and throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles. Let me show you what I mean. You ever heard anyone say honesty is the best policy? Ever heard people say that? It's a thing that people say, right? Um, saying when we say that. Saying when we say that. Aren't we saying, listen, it's going to work out better for you if you're honest. You might think that lying will help you get through the moment, but you've got to look to the long term. If you want to be prosperous, you've got to be honest. Um, and all that line of thinking is doing is saying, listen, fix your eyes on being prosperous and don't lie, okay? Because that's the way to get that thing. Um, uh, except when you find yourself in a situation where being dishonest will set you up for the rest of your life, then you might not be tempted to take that anymore. Because what really matters to you is being prosperous, right? Like, say, someone offered you a large amount of money to betray someone. You might take that deal if you go, well, honesty is the policy that I really want the policy, you know. Um, you haven't got any reason to say no when all you're really after is cash. Now, the person who is honest whether it's advantageous or not. Having been like, when you see that Jesus was honest all the way down the cross, he had the chance to lie at his trial and be spared all of the thing. He could have walked out a free man if he just answered the question, "Are you the Messiah?" differently. If he had answered that question differently, he goes, he told the truth all the way to the cross to pay for your lies. And when you see him doing that, it makes telling the truth more beautiful and telling lies more openly. See this. See how this works. There's this. There's something in our past that we have to keep going back to. We have to keep going back and looking to the cross. Um, but I want to show today that there's something in our future we've got to look to as well. Verses 1 to 6 of what it is that tell us there's a problem. We did look at this, months ago, but I can't imagine you can memorize it all. So we'll go over some of that zone again. There's a remedy in this passage. Then we're going to talk about how to use the remedy. Okay. So firstly, let's talk about the problem. Listen, just about everyone in this room, as Heidi mentioned, will have heard 1 Corinthians 13 read before, even if it's just at a wedding. I've been in plenty of non-Christian weddings run by non-Christian celebrants where they still read this passage because it's nice or whatever. It's part of our culture. This passage is good for understanding love. Um, and I get that. It sounds like a gentle meditation on love. The poetry is there. This is poetic, but the original hearers would have hit with the force of a rat back, not as a kind of gentle, like a takedown roast. Verses 1 to 3 describe them to a T. These people who he's writing to. Paul's writing to the church in Corinth. As a city, was about 100 years old when Paul was writing this letter. It was a newish city compared to other cities around. But it was a rapidly growing city. People moved there to be successful. And as a result, it attracted an unusually resourceful, talented, and ambitious kind of person. Do you relate? So it's like camp in that regard. The character of the city flowed into the character of the church. You've got this city full of very capable, ambitious people. These people were linguistically talented. They were they had great insights into the scriptures, and they could bring those to bear in other people's lives. They were great communicators. Faith moves mountains. They had leadership skills. They were insightful and learning and skilled practitioners. Not only um, not only that, this church had within it virtuous people, like really people you look at and go, wow, man, they are amazing, willing to give up away their life and even their body to hardship. This was the Corinthian church, extraordinarily gifted, unwaveringly committed to the cause. But then Paul gives this list in verses 4 to 7 of what love's like. And if you've read the rest of the letter, you know that essentially every single word in that section has shown up earlier in the letter to describe what they're not, what they're not. Paul's saying, love is patient, but you guys aren't. Love is kind, but you guys are terrible. All these, Paul is saying that it's possible to do all these impressive things that we would class as impressive and important outputs. But if you're doing them for you, is therefore not out of love. I'm doing a reading at the moment for a project that I'm thinking about working on, thinking about the kind of work that people do in camera and to help us think about that in a Christian way. And so I'm reading a book at the moment called The Prince by Niccolo who Machiavelli died nearly 500 years ago. And his whole shtick was that you should only do good. You should only do good so that you can amass power for yourself. Um, uh, s- so that you can be thought of as needed and indispensable. Um, it's dark. Like his writing is so dark. It's if you've ever seen that those cards or something like that, he's like that's model. You know, and he's just saying this is just how stuff works. You want to get ahead in life, you've got to make people need you. You've got to, just that's how things go. Real nice guy. And steps in and says, Machiavelli, you don't get it. You want to be something, but you're nothing, actually. You're nothing. Let me explain why he'd say it. Charles Spurgeon, great English preacher, once told this story once. It went like this. Once upon a time, there was a king who ruled over everything in and one day there was a gardener. Sorry, one day there was a gardener who grew an enormous bush, an enormous whizzing carrot. He took this to the king and he said, "My lord, this is the greatest carrot I've ever grown, or ever will grow, and therefore I present it to you as a token of my love and respect for you." The king was touched and he discerned the man's heart. So as he turned to go, the king said, "Wait, you're clearly a good steward of the earth. I want to give you this plot of land freely as a gift so that you can garden it all." The gardener was amazed and delighted. He went home rejoicing. It's not a marriage. So good. There was a nobleman in the king's court who overheard this and he said, "Well, if that's what you can get for a carrot." The next day, the nobleman came before the king and he was leading a handsome black stallion. He bowed low and said, "My lord, I breed horses, and this is the greatest horse I have ever bred or ever will breed. And I present it to you as a token of my respect for you." But the king discerned his heart, and he said, "Thank you." And he took the horse and simply dismissed him. The nobleman was perplexed, and so the king said, "Let me explain. The gardener was giving me the carrot, but you were giving yourself the horse." See what he's saying? He's saying, your act of kindness was no kindness at all. It's actually about serving yourself, and so it lacked any value. It was just a claim to God. So that's the problem. The problem is we all do that. We all try to use we all try to use our goodness to get ahead. We all try to do that to some extent. What's the remedy? It is in verses 8 to 13. And what Paul is saying is the remedy is that something is coming. There's something. Now, the first place it says it is in verse 10, haven't you there, where he says, "For now we know in patches and pieces, but when the completion comes, what is in part will fall away." It says completion, some of your translations say perfection, you've got that. Perfection is coming, say that. All of us have a deep down know that we fall short of human standards, let alone God's standards, right? We all know that. We don't need convincing of that. And not only that, but the world that we find ourselves in is frustrating. While it's brimming with potentiality, so often it finds itself thwarted, decay, hurricanes, free radicals in the bloodstream. We are imperfect creatures living in a world that's now defective, that's got defection in it. The great preacher John Stott describes us like whales, incredibly powerful, with tails that whip this way and that. That um, but we're getting nowhere because we're on the beach. Indeed, the very strength a whale has to plough water with its tail can serve to only serve to dig it deeper when it's on the land. Can only serve to hurt it. We're like creatures out of our element. But you put that same whale back in the ocean, and she soars. She soars. When completeness comes, all the same, that you are out of your element now, right now, friends, that something is coming, and all of our potentialities, our capacities, and not just you, but the whole world will be unlocked. And we're going to explode with fulfillment and satisfaction. So, what is it? What's coming? Well, when the writers of the Old Testament wanted to describe what that would be like, what was arriving, they talk about seeing God face to face. Seeing God face to face. Various characters in the Old Testament have these fleeting moments where they do get the the vision of God, where they get to see Him just for a tick, and for a moment they're overwhelmed and transformed by the experience of just a few seconds in that reality. Imagine living forever like that. That is what Paul is saying here in verse 13. That we will see God face to face, and we go, "Great, that's nice." But Catherine was saying, "You're looking for an unveiled, direct experience and sight of the very face and the presence of the Creator God face to face. That's what you're built to enjoy. That's how you are going to unlock all your joy." The very worst thing that happened on the day that Adam and Eve left the garden was not that they were going to die. It was not the fallen epistles. It was that God was no longer there walking with them in the garden. Paul's not talking about appreciating what God has done in nature. He's not talking about knowing God generally. When Anna and I lived in Sydney a couple of years ago, occasionally we would see Annabelle Crack, the ABC journalist, in cafes around where we live. We'd be sitting there, and across the room, basically banging around on a table or something like that. We're big fans of her writing. I listen to a podcast. I've got both of her cookbooks. Her friends, here's the thing, we have friends who are actually Annabelle Crack's neighbour. They live right next door. They share keys. So if one of them gets locked out or needs hot pumps cleaned while they're on holidays, they can do that. They hang out and they don't need the cookbook because they can eat together and then share the recipes. They know each other deeply. They share an intimacy because of their proximity that Anna and I could never enjoy. Even though we once saw a Canberra, don't mention we saw a Canberra, and in the bag section of David Jones, this is something that's still um, when we see God face to face, we'll know exactly what He's like, right? I have a Maori friend who, Maoris have this hongi thing where they press the noses right up against each other. It's like hongi means sharing breath. You're saying hello. It's not a kiss, but it's so close and so intimate. And there's a knowing of one another that goes on when you are right next to one another. We'll see Him in all His dazzling wonderfulness, and we'll also experience His affection. Right now, we're like beach whales compared to the weightlessness that will mark out when we know Him like that. Psalm 16 says, "You fill me with joy in your presence. Your eternal pleasure is at your right hand." joy in your presence, joy before your face. Or Psalm 17, as for me, I will be vindicated and I will see your face. When I awake, I will be satisfied with seeing your likeness. C.S. Lewis says that the faint, far-off results of those interviews, which God's creative rapture implied in that when He made the world, and that's so He made the worlds, and now what we call physical pleasures. That's a bit of a mouthful, but what He's saying is we look at stuff around us, all the joys that are around us, all those physical pleasures that are around us, they are a memory trace back to God Himself, back to the day when we will see Him face to face. But imagine, what would it be like to taste the fountainhead, that stream of which even those lower reaches prove so intoxicating? Yet I believe that's what lies before us. In all your achievement, friend, in all the things that you are striving for, what you are really looking for is the smile on His face. In all your quest for affection from others, you are looking for closeness only with Him. He is the only one who can satisfy when you see His face. Now, hang on. Wait. How do we know with certainty that we're going to see Him? How can we possibly? Right? We've said that we've got these defections, that we're like whales on the beach. How do we know that we're going to make it back to the ocean? How do we know that we're going to get it? Well, that doesn't have that kind of certainty, right? Could stay on the beach for the rest of the very short life. How can you have certainty you'll see Him? Paul has certainty. In this passage, he has certainty. He says, I will see God face to face. It's arresting that he could be so brazen. He's not God. He's like not like a super Christian, slightly less sinful than you or something like that. He's just like you. He's just like me. And yet he's certain that he's going to see God face to face. How can you have that? That's a bit cocky, isn't it? How could we presume to have access to God like this? We've got to make sense of this. Verse 12 says, Now I know in part, then I shall know fully, even as I am fully known. I don't need to tell you that in the Bible, the word known is really a relational word. Adam knew his wife Eve, and they had things, right? Like it's a deeply relational word. Um, and, in sense. But what this is saying is Jesus knows you right the way through. Jesus already knows you right the way through. God Himself knew me, knew, loved, and accepted me, made me His own, did the same for you if you're a believer. And when did He do that? How did He do that? He went on the cross. He lost access to the Father. He lost the face. When Paul elsewhere is looking for a way to describe how awful hell is, he says in 2 Corinthians 1 verse 9, they will be punished with everlasting destruction and shut out from the face of the Lord and the glory of His light. If being before His face is completeness, like being a whale in the water, to lose access to God completely and utterly would be the ultimate devastation, the ultimate torture, the ultimate pain, the ultimate disaster. And Jesus Christ was experiencing exactly that on the cross for you. So how can Paul be sure that he's going to see the face of God? Because Jesus lost the face that we deserve for us. Because we aren't good, but it's not because you aren't good enough, but it's because you're like a whale on the beach. Jesus Christ lost the face so that we can never lose it. When Jesus Christ saw us at the bottom and yet died for us first. When He took the rejection of the forsaken, the loss of the face of God, so that we could have the faith, so that we could know that the Father accepts us. Jesus says, at that moment, I am fully loved, I am fully known. He says the same for you too. Paul says, I am utterly and absolutely certain that the delight of those eyes, when they finally hit me, when I finally see those eyes, they're going to blast out of my life all the insecurity, all the fear, all the things that are bad about me. The light of the radiance of that delight on my face, the knowledge that the face that wept for me and gave up his son for me will see me, will make me perfect, will make me complete. And knowing that's going to happen, knowing that in a sense, you already delights in me, it delights in you, it changes our attitude towards everything that happens in this life. Um, because now we have a desire for a fundamentally different way of getting ahead. Why does verse 11 say, when I was a child, I looked like a child, I thought like a child, I spoke like a child, but when I became a man, I put childish things behind me. What's a child like? Well, actually, in all kinds of ways, having lived with four of them for a couple of years now, I can tell you that they are, in many ways, the opposite of verses 4 through 7. Children are not particularly passionate. They're often not kind. Very mean little people sometimes. Have a different set of desires. You become like a grown up. If you're trying to serve God to get stuff, then you're not doing anything for Him. Serving Him will be a grind because you'll feel like you're constantly giving Him stallions. He's just saying, thanks. If you delight in Him, you'll be like a farmer giving up the carrot. If you know about the smile that's coming, if you know that He's already smiling right now, if you know that you are going to hear Him say, well done, good and faithful servant, and not because of your faithfulness, but because of Jesus' faithfulness, it changes your attitude towards everything. Here's how you apply this remedy. In the end, um, to the degree that you live in the joyful certainty that you will see Him one day, you'll be able to put other people before yourself. It'll be a joy, actually, to serve like that. Living like this, knowing that you see His smile, makes you brave. Because what have you got to lose? You can risk losing, being seen as a loser as you serve others. Because what have you got to lose? You can't lose His face. That's guaranteed. On the other hand, it'll make those things that entrap us, the things that we keep coming back to again and again, those little tiny addictions or little tiny ways that we um, 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 look to self-soothe, the little items that you are presently tempted to chase after, it makes them seem very small. Because what have you got to gain? Could you possibly gain that's better than Him? What could you possibly gain that's better than being a whale in the ocean? Well, I can wave my tail a bit better this way. Beached whale, there's no benefit. You have the joy and completeness of the Father. You can't be offered anything better than that. C.S. Lewis again uh, says of this. It would seem that our Lord finds our desires not too strong but too weak. We are half-hearted creatures, falling about with drink and sex and ambition, when infinite joy is offered to us. Like an ignorant child who wants to go on making mud pies in a slum because he cannot imagine what is meant by the offer of a holiday at the sea. We are far too pleased. Friends, coming to the end of this campaign, Practical Grace, I want you to see what He is offering. Because when you see it, it'll mean that you can put down stubbornness and pick up self-control. It'll mean that you can put down the desire to chase after stuff and make sure that you are taken care of and pick up kindness and love and forbearance and forgiveness. All of those things are only possible when you look him square in the face. And when we gather each week, when we gather up in Jindabyne next week, that is what we are encouraging one another to do, to grab one another's faces and point them up to him. So I'm going to pray that we are good at helping one another do that. Let me pray. Gracious Father, would you transform us by the radiance of your character and living? Would the things of this world grow strangely dim in the light of your glory? Father, thank you that we have a world of potentiality and joy to look forward to and make all things new. And so, Father, transform our ambition right so that we aren't looking to shore up what we have, but shore up a world that knows you so that is transformed by you. And we ask all this in Jesus' sake. Amen. Friendship,